Do you know the difference between someone who truly changes their life and someone who lives trapped in the endless cycle of starting something and giving up days later? It's not willpower, it's not motivation, it's not discipline, it's something much deeper that no one tells you. You know that person who makes the same New Year's resolution every year? This year, I'm going to change. And then that person signs up for the gym in January, buys a bunch of self-help books, downloads productivity apps, starts a restrictive diet, and in March, it's exactly in the same place as always, or worse. Why? Because this person is trying to build a house starting with the roof. I'm going to tell you the story of a guy named Nolan. Nolan was 19 years old, and his life was falling apart without him realizing it. He wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't stupid. He wasn't lazy by nature. He was just doing what most young people do today, living on autopilot. Parties every weekend, drinking, drugs, cigarettes, women, sleeping in late, no perspective, no plan. And his life was actually good that way as long as he had no responsibilities. But reality has a cruel way of knocking on your door when you least expect it. And when it knocked on Nolan's door, it didn't knock gently. In fact, reality kicked the door down. Nolan was graduating from high school. He took the college entrance exam and got a terrible score. He wouldn't get a sports scholarship because he wasn't skilled in any sport. And to make matters worse, his father got sick and couldn't work anymore. His mother had just had a baby. Suddenly, the boy who used to wake up at noon to smoke with his friends realized, shit, I need to support my family. He tried to change. I swear he tried. He put together an ambitious study plan. He was going to study 6 hours a day. He was going to wake up at 5 a.m. to train. He was going to look for a job. He was going to become a different person. Do you know how long it lasted? 3 days. On the 4th day, he couldn't concentrate for more than 10 minutes. His brain was addicted to cheap dopamine. His body was addicted to alcohol and drugs. His mind was used to zero discipline. He discovered in the worst possible way that he had no internal structure, no system, no foundation. What you're about to discover in this video goes against the culture of rapid transformation. Because what changed Nolan's life wasn't a 30-day plan. It wasn't a 90-day challenge. It wasn't simple motivation. It's a system that combines ancient Japanese concepts with the modern science of habit formation. A system that James Clear explains in his book Atomic Habits, but which only truly works when you understand the philosophies behind it. Before I show you exactly how this system works and how it saved Nolan's life, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below. What is the habit you most want to build in your life? It could be anything. Waking up early, studying every day, stopping procrastinating, working out, reading more, anything. Write it down below. Because when you declare it publicly, you transform a vague wish into a real commitment. I read most of the comments, and I'm genuinely happy when I see you applying what we teach here and getting real results. By the way, this video is long, over 30 minutes, because I don't just want to give you superficial information. I want you to deeply understand how to build habits that never break. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's go. Chapter 1. The Boy with No Future. Nolan grew up in a small town in the American Midwest. One of those towns where everyone knows everyone, where there's not much to do besides go to the convenience store, drive aimlessly, and meet up with friends for drinks. He wasn't a troubled kid. He didn't fight. He didn't steal. He didn't do anything illegal besides using marijuana occasionally, but he was nothing either. He had no passion for anything. He had no dreams. He had no plans. He simply existed. High school was like that. Average grades, average friends, average life. And that was okay, because he didn't have to pay bills. He didn't have to worry about rent, food, groceries. The parents took care of everything, so his life was simple. Wake up, go to school. When he went, go out with friends at night, drink, smoke, hook up with some girls, stay up late, repeat the same routine. Weekend, party, Monday, hangover, Tuesday, getting back to normal. Wednesday, already planning the next party. He was good at it. Good at doing nothing, good at living in the moment, good at not thinking about the future. until the future came knocking. The final year of high school was drawing to a close. The career counselor called Nolan in for a chat. "Nolan, have you thought about what you're going to do after you graduate?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Get a job, maybe. And college? I don't have money for college. You might be able to get a scholarship. Did you take the entrance exam?" He had done it more out of pressure from his parents than out of his own volition. And the grade, horrible. It wasn't even close to the minimum for an academic scholarship. "And what about a sports scholarship?" the advisor tried. Nolan almost laughed. He didn't play any sports. He was out of shape. "I smoked a pack of cigarettes a week. I couldn't run 500 meters without getting out of breath." "Look, Nolan," the counselor said in that tone of someone who'd seen 1,000 boys like him, "if you don't do something now, you're going to be stuck in this town working minimum wage jobs for the rest of your life. Is that what you want?" It wasn't, but he didn't know what he wanted either. Then he simply said, "I'll think about it." And he left the room without thinking about anything. 2 weeks later, Nolan's father had a heart attack. It wasn't serious enough to kill him, but it was serious enough to change everything. The father worked as a machine operator in a factory. Hard work, 12-hour shifts, a salary that barely supported the family. After the heart attack, the doctor was clear. You can no longer do heavy physical work. Your heart can't handle it. Nolan's father tried to return to work 2 weeks later, but his body couldn't handle it. He was fired, and suddenly, Nolan's house no longer had a fixed rent. The mother had just had a baby, a tiny, premature girl who needed constant care. The mother couldn't work, at least not for the next few months. Nolan's younger brother was 12 years old. He was still in school. Who's left? Nolan. The 19-year-old boy who lacked the discipline to study for 30 minutes, who lacked the willpower to wake up before noon, who had no plan, no skills, no structure. This boy now needed to support a family. The first thing Nolan did was panic. The second was denying reality. Dad will get better. He'll go back to work. It won't be so bad. The third step was finally accepting. I need to change now. He grabbed a notebook and did what everyone does when they want to change their life. He put together an ambitious and completely unrealistic plan, Nolan's transformation plan. Wake up at 5 a.m. every day, run 5 kilometers before breakfast, study 6 hours a day to retake the entrance exam, work out in the afternoon, look for a job, quit smoking, quit drinking, stop hanging out with friends, stop using drugs, go to bed at 10 p.m. He looked at the plan and thought, okay, I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow has arrived. He set his alarm for 5 a.m. The alarm rang. He hit snooze. He woke up at 11 a.m. Okay, he thought, I'll wake up tomorrow. The next day, the same thing happened. On the third day, he even managed to wake up at 6 a.m. He put on his running shoes. He opened the door. He looked out at the dark, cold street, and he went back to bed. In the first week, he had broken all the promises he had made to himself. And you know what's worse? He realized something terrifying. He couldn't concentrate. He sat down to study. He opened the book. He read a page. His brain began to wander. He picked up his cell phone just to check something quickly. 3 hours later, he was still on his cell phone. He tried again. 5 minutes of focus. His brain craving dopamine. He opened Instagram. He opened YouTube. He opened anything that would give him that quick hit of satisfaction. He tried to run. He literally couldn't run 500 meters. His body was so out of shape, his lungs so damaged by cigarettes, that he had to stop, bent over, hands on his knees, coughing as if he were going to die. It was there that Nolan had the most terrifying moment of his life. I have no discipline whatsoever. I can't do anything. I'm a failure. Chapter 2. The video that changed everything. Nolan was lying in bed on a Tuesday afternoon. He should have been looking for a job. He should have been studying. But he was on YouTube watching random videos. The algorithm is strange sometimes. You're watching comedy videos and suddenly a video about Japanese philosophy pops up. The video title was Kaizen, How the Japanese Build Habits That Last Forever. Nolan almost scrolled past it, but something about that title made him click. The video began by telling the story of a guy who lost 50 kilos, not by going on a radical diet, but by applying a concept called Kaizen, continuous improvement of 1% per day. And the guy in the video said something that struck Nolan. The problem isn't that you lack discipline. The problem is that you're trying to build a Ferrari when you don't even have a license to drive a Volkswagen Beetle. You're trying to change your entire life at once, and your brain is rejecting it because it's too much change, too fast, too much pressure. But what if instead of trying to change everything, you change just one thing? The smallest thing possible, so small that you can't use an excuse not to do it. Nolan paused the video. Could that be it? Was he failing because he was trying to change everything at once? He rewound the video and watched it again and again and again. The guy in the video explained, Kaizen isn't about being perfect. It's about being 1% better than yesterday. And if you improve 1% every day for a year, you don't improve 365%. You improve 3,758% because of the cumulative effect. But the part that really got to Nolan was when the guy said, forget the 30-day plan. Forget the 90-day transformation. You don't need a plan, you need a system. And a system starts with such a small action that you can't fail. Nolan picked up his cell phone and started researching more about Kaizen. And that's when he found the book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Nolan didn't have the money to buy the book, so he downloaded a PDF version and he began to read. The book's premise hit him like a sledgehammer. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Nolan had goals, several, but he had no system. The book explained, habits aren't about having or not having willpower. They're about environmental design, triggers, and identity. And he had a concept that made everything make sense. Keystone habits or angular habits. These are the habits that when you implement them, automatically facilitate other habits. It's like the first domino that knocks down all the others. For example, if you start working out in the morning, you automatically wake up earlier, eat better because you don't want to waste your workout, go to bed earlier because you're tired, drink more water, and feel more confident. One habit leads to another. But you can't start with 10 habits at once. You start with one, the smallest one possible. Nolan closed the PDF and thought, what's the smallest habit I can build right now? Waking up at 5 a.m.? No, that's still too difficult. Run 5, Kimmy? No. Impossible in his physical condition. Studying for 6 hours? No way, my brain can't handle it. So, which one? He remembered the video. The guy was talking about starting with something ridiculously simple, and that's when Nolan decided, I'm going to read 5 pages of this book every day. Just 5 pages before I go to sleep. 5 pages. Any idiot can read 5 pages. It wasn't impressive, it wasn't motivating, but it was possible. And Nolan learned something that day that changed everything. Possible is more powerful than perfect. Chapter 3. The first 14 days. Nolan didn't tell anyone about his plan because it wasn't a plan. It was just reading 5 pages before bed. Night 1. He read the 5 pages. After reading, he felt kind of silly, like, is that all? I haven't changed anything in my life. Night 2. Read it again, 5 pages. Night 3, she almost forgot. She was almost asleep when she remembered. She got up, grabbed her phone and read the 5 pages. Night 7, he read the 5 pages and didn't want to stop. He read 3 more, but then he stopped because the rule was 5. And if he broke the rule on the first success, the system would collapse. In the book, James Clear explains, the trick is not to read more, it's to maintain consistency because consistency builds identity. On the 10th day, Nolan realized something. He was looking forward to reading time. Not because the book was exciting, but because it was the only commitment he had kept to himself in years. For the first time, he was proving to himself, I can keep a promise. By the 14th day, he had read 70 pages, and I had learned several concepts that were beginning to make sense. Concepts from the book, Atomic Habits. Habits don't change who you are, they reveal who you are. Every habit has 4 stages: trigger, craving, response, reward. To create a good habit, make it obvious, make it appealing, make it easy, make it satisfying. Never miss 2 days in a row. If you fail one day, come back the next day. But there was one concept that really blew his mind. You don't need to be the person you want to be. You just need to prove to yourself that that person exists, and you prove it with small, repeated actions. Nolan had spent 19 years proving himself to be an undisciplined person. Now he was proving the opposite, 1 page at a time, and that's when he decided to add the second habit, but not a random habit. He had learned about keystone habits. He needed to be strategic. What was the habit that, if he implemented it, would make other habits easier? Movement. If he started moving in the morning, his brain would wake up. If his brain woke up, he would be able to study better. If he could study better, he would have a better chance of passing the exam. If he passed the exam, he would get a scholarship. If he got a scholarship, it would change his family's life. It all started with movement. But remember, he couldn't run 500 meters, so he applied Kaizen again. What was the simplest possible move? To walk. Do not walk 5 kilometers. Do not walk for 1 hour. Walking from the front door to the mailbox and back, it was literally 100 meters there and back, 200 meters in total. Anyone can walk 200 meters, so his routine became wake up, walk to the mailbox and come back. At night, read 5 pages before bed. 2 habits, small, possible, consistent, and something started to happen. Chapter 4. Employment in the warehouse. On the 21st day, Nolan was walking to the mailbox when his neighbor, Mr. Patterson, was leaving for work. "Nolan, you're awake before 7 a.m. Is the world going to end?" Nolan laughed. "I'm trying to change, Mr. Patterson." "Change? How?" "I started walking in the morning. Simple thing." Mr. Patterson looked at him with a strange look, not of judgment, of respect. "That's good, kid. Consistency builds character." Nolan was leaving, but Mr. Patterson called out, "Hey, are you looking for a job?" "I am. I work at a building materials depot. We need someone for the afternoon shift. It doesn't pay much, but it's a start. Do you want me to talk to my boss?" Nolan could hardly believe it. "Seriously, man, that would be amazing. Stop by tomorrow at 2 a.m. Tell them you're a friend of mine." The next day, Nolan went to the warehouse. He got the job. Shift from 2 a.m. to 10 p.m. Minimum wage. Hard work, carrying boxes, organizing stock, serving customers. But it was money. Money that the family desperately needed. The first day was brutal. He wasn't used to physical work. By the end of his shift, his back achy, his arms achy, his legs achy. He arrived home at 10:30 a.m., very tired, and fell into bed. And then he remembered, shit, all 5 pages. Had he read in the morning? No. Had he read in the afternoon? No. It was already 11 p.m. He was exhausted. The voice in my head said, "Skip today. You worked all day. You deserve a rest." But then he remembered something he had read in the book. Never lose 2 days in a row. 1 lost day is an accident. 2 lost days are the beginning of a new habit. He got up. He picked up his cell phone. He read the 5 pages. He fell asleep. The next day, he woke up and walked to the mailbox. His body ached. He didn't want to get out of bed. But he did. He walked. He came back. And it was there that Nolan understood something profound. Discipline isn't about doing something when you want to. Discipline is about doing it, especially when you don't want to. Chapter 5. Kaizen applied to exercise. After a month working in the warehouse and maintaining his 2 habits, walking in the morning and reading 5 pages at night, Nolan had read 150 pages of the book. And one of the things the book taught was habit stacking. Habit stacking is when you connect a new habit to a habit you already do. Example, after I walk to the mailbox, I'm going to do 5 push-ups. Nolan thought, okay, I'll try. Day 1 of push-ups. He tried to do 5 push-ups. He managed 2.5. His body was too weak. But he reminded them, Kaizen, 1% improvement. If he couldn't do 5 normal push-ups, he was going to do 5 knee push-ups. Day 2, 5 knee bends. Day 10, 5 knee bends plus 1 regular bend. Day 20, 5 normal push-ups. Day 30, 5 regular push-ups. After walking to the mailbox, the body was changing. Not drastically, but it was changing. And Nolan realized that the walk to the mailbox wasn't enough anymore. His body was asking for more. So he applied Kaizen again. Instead of just walking to the mailbox, he would walk to the corner another 200 meters. A week later, to the other corner, another 300 meters. After 2 months, he was walking 2 chemicals every morning. And you know what's crazy? He wasn't forcing himself. His body naturally wanted more because he had started so small that his brain couldn't resist. And now the habit was ingrained. James Clear calls this the 2-minute rule. Any habit can be broken down into a 2-minute version. Want to start reading more? Read a page. Want to start meditating? Meditate for 1 minute. Want to start working out? Do 1 push-up. The magic isn't in the quantity. It's in showing up, because when you show up, you prove to your brain, I'm the kind of person who does this. And identity is everything. Chapter 6. Mentoring. 3 months after starting his job at the warehouse, Nolan had saved $600. He was still reading the book Atomic Habits. He was still walking every morning. He was still doing push-ups. And he had added 1 more habit, studying for 30 minutes a day to retake the entrance exam. 30 minutes, not 6 hours as he had originally planned. 30 minutes, because he could do it in 30 minutes. 30 minutes wasn't scary, 30 minutes was possible. And you know what happened? After studying for 30 minutes a day for 60 days straight, his brain started to change. The concentration he hadn't had in years was returning. He could focus for 30 minutes without picking up his cell phone, sometimes even longer. One day, he was on YouTube and saw that the guy in the Kaizen video had an online mentorship program. The price, $500. Nolan looked at his bank account. He had $600. If he spent $500, he would only have $100 left. But he thought, if I keep doing what I've always done, I'll stay the same person I've always been. I need to invest in myself. He bought the mentorship. The mentorship program was an online platform with various videos, exercises, and a community. The mentor, a guy named Marcus, was the same one from the video that had changed Nolan's life. The first video of the mentorship program was an introduction. Welcome. You have just made the most important decision of your life. Not because you bought this mentorship program, but because you decided to invest in yourself. Now let me tell you something, this mentorship isn't going to give you motivation. Motivation is garbage. Motivation lasts 3 days. What I'm going to give you is a system based on Japanese philosophies that have existed for centuries, combined with modern science of habit formation. You already know Kaizen, but Kaizen is just the beginning. There are other philosophies that, when combined, create a virtually foolproof system. Nolan was glued to the screen. The first philosophy I want to teach you is Shosin, beginner's mind. Shosin is the idea of maintaining the humility and curiosity of someone who is always learning, of never thinking you already know everything, of always being open to growth. The problem with many people who try to build habits is that they create a rigid identity. I'm the type of person who wakes up at 5 a.m. and then on the day they wake up at 6 a.m., they think they've failed, that they're not that person anymore. But with Shoshin, you understand you are always learning, you are always adapting. You are not defined by a perfect day or an imperfect day. You are defined by your willingness to keep learning. Nolan paused the video. That made so much sense. How many times had he given up because he'd had a bad day? How many times had he broken his diet and thought, since I've already failed, I'll just eat everything? He had been trapped in an all-or-nothing mentality, perfection or failure. There was no middle ground, but with Shosin there was. You could fail and still be a learner. You could stumble and still be on the path. Marcus continued, the next philosophy is gammon, worthy perseverance. James Clear teaches you how to make habits easy, environmental design, facilitation, and that's important. But there are times in life when the environment won't be perfect, when you'll be tired, when you'll want to give up. That's where gammon comes in. Gammon is the ability to endure discomfort with dignity, to do what needs to be done, even when it's not easy. Clear constructs the external system. Gammon is the internal system. Nolan was writing everything down. Marcus continued. The third philosophy is Shuhari, the 3 stages of mastery. Shu, you follow the rules. Ha, you break the rules. Ri, you transcend the rules. In the beginning, you need to follow the system to the letter. Don't question it. Don't adapt it. Just follow it because you're learning the fundamentals. Then once you've mastered the fundamentals, you adapt. You see what works for you and what doesn't. You break the rules intelligently. And in the end, you transcend. The system becomes second nature. You no longer need to think about it. You simply are. That blew Nolan's mind. He was at the Shu stage, following the rules, walking every day, reading every day, studying every day, and that was fine. He didn't need to adapt yet. He just needed to follow. Marcus continued. The fourth philosophy is Ichi-Gochi, this once-in-a-lifetime moment. This is one of the most beautiful, Ichigo. Ichi teaches you to treat each moment as unique and precious because it is you'll never have this exact moment again. This morning's walk, it will never happen exactly like this again. This workout, one of a kind. This page you're about to read, one of a kind. When you internalize Ichi-Gochi, you stop doing things automatically. You begin to be present. And presence is what transforms repetition into ritual. Nolan felt something breaking inside him. He had spent 19 years living on autopilot, never present, never conscious. And now he was learning to be present, one moment at a time. Marcus continued, the fifth philosophy is wabi-sabi, beauty and imperfection. You will fail. You will have bad days. You will break your streak. And when that happens, wabi-sabi reminds you, imperfection is part of the journey. Beauty is not in perfection. It's in accepting imperfection and having the courage to continue anyway. James Clear teaches you never lose 2 days in a row. Wabi-sabi teaches you when you lose a day, don't hate yourself. Just come back. That resonated deeply with Nolan because he had spent his whole life hating himself for not being perfect. And now he was learning that he didn't need to be. Marcus concluded the video. Now you have the 5 philosophies. Kaizen gives you the method. Shosin gives you humility. Gam gives you strength. Shuhari gives you the roadmap. Ichigo-Ichi gives you presence. Wabi-sabi gives you compassion. When you combine these 5 philosophies with James Clear's teachings on environment design, triggers, and identity, you have a virtually foolproof system, not because you'll never fail, but because even when you fail, you have the tools to get back up. Nolan closed his laptop and stared at the ceiling for about 10 minutes. Everything made sense now. Everything connected. Chapter 7. The First Great Fall. 6 months after starting the journey, Nolan was transformed. He had read Atomic Habits in its entirety. He had read 3 other books. He was studying for 1 hour a day. He had started with 30 minutes and naturally increased it. He was walking 3 kilometers every morning. He had quit smoking. He had drastically reduced his alcohol consumption. His body was different. He wasn't an athlete, but he was healthy, strong. His mind was different. He could concentrate for hours. I could say no to distractions. And the family was doing better. He was contributing financially. The father was undergoing treatment. The mother was able to return to work part-time. Everything was going well. And that's when life dropped a bomb. Nolan's younger brother, Jake, had a bicycle accident. He broke his leg. He needed surgery. The hospital bill, $8,000. The family did not have adequate health insurance. The father had not yet returned to work. The mother worked part-time. All the money Nolan had saved in the last 6 months won $200. It wasn't nearly enough. They had to take out a loan. And even then, it didn't cover everything. Nolan had to take extra shifts at the warehouse. He started working from 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then he would take a half-day shift from 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. doing cleaning. He was working 13 hours a day and his system collapsed. He couldn't wake up in the morning to go for a walk. He slept 4 hours a night. He was exhausted. He stopped studying. He stopped reading. He stopped doing push-ups. She started smoking again. She started drinking again. She went back to ordering fast food because she didn't have time to cook. In 2 weeks, he had lost 6 months of progress. And the worst part, he knew it. He saw it happening, but he was too tired to care. One night, he was lying in bed at 4 a.m., needing to wake up in 3 hours for work. He couldn't sleep. His head was spinning. He picked up his phone and logged into the mentoring platform. There was a question and answer section. He wrote, "I failed. I broke the whole system. I don't know if I can come back." Marcus's reply came the next day. "Nolan, I want you to watch this specific video. It's about wabi-sabi and gamour." Nolan opened the video. Marcus was sitting in a Japanese garden. He began, "If you're watching this video, you probably fell, and not just a little fall, a big fall. And now you hate yourself, thinking you've lost all the progress, thinking you're back to square one. But let me tell you a secret. You didn't go back to square one. You never go back to square one. Because progress isn't linear. Progress is a spiral. Sometimes you go back, but you go back at a different level. You already have months of experience. You know you're capable of maintaining habits. You've proven it to yourself. That proof doesn't disappear just because you had a bad month. Now, here's what you're going to do. Choose the smallest habit you broke, the easiest one to get back into, and do only that one. Forget all the others. One habit, the smallest one, just to prove you can still do it." Nolan paused the video and thought, which habit was the easiest to get back into? Read 5 pages before bed. He could be dead tired. He could have had 13 hours of work under his belt. But 5 pages, he could do it. That night, he read the 5 pages. The following night, he read it again. On the 3rd day, he woke up 10 minutes earlier and walked to the mailbox, just that far, not 3 kilometers, only 200 meters. On the 4th day, he did 5 push-ups, and something happened. The spark returned. He wasn't doing everything he used to do, but he was doing something. And something is infinitely better than nothing. Chapter 8. The Discovery of Aiki. 2 months after the fall, Nolan had resumed most of his habits. Not with the same intensity as before, but he was getting back to them. And he realized something. Why was he doing all this? At first, it was out of necessity. I needed to support my family. I needed to change my life. But now what? What was the real purpose? In the mentorship program, there was a module on Ikigai. He hadn't watched it yet. He decided to watch it. Marcus began the video. Ikigai is perhaps the most important Japanese philosophy of all, because without Ikigai, nothing else matters. Ikigai means reason for living. It's your purpose. What makes you get up in the morning? But Iki isn't just about following your dreams or doing what you love. It's much deeper than that. Iki, in the Western sense, lies at the intersection of 4 questions. What do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? What can you be paid for? If you find something that answers these 4 questions, you found your Ikigai in the Western sense, which is more focused on the professional aspect. Marcus continued, but here's the part nobody tells you. Iki in the Eastern sense is much deeper. Your Ikigai doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be changing the world or curing cancer. It can be something simple. It can be taking care of your family. It can be doing a good job. It can be being there for the people you love. What matters is that it's genuine, that it comes from within you. Nolan paused the video and picked up a notebook. He wrote down the 4 questions. What do I love? I love my family. I love my brother. I love seeing my parents proud of me. What am I good at? I'm getting good at being consistent, at showing up every day, at not giving up. What does the world need? The world needs people who don't give up, who keep going even when it's difficult. What can I be paid for? I don't know yet, but I'm building skills. I'm studying. I'm becoming someone valuable. He looked at the answers, and something clicked. His Ikigai wasn't about getting rich or being famous. His Ikigai was about being the kind of man his family could count on, the kind who showed up, the kind who didn't give up, that when life got tough, and it would, he would be there strong, present, reliable. That was the purpose. And when he internalized that, everything changed. Because now he wasn't walking in the morning to lose weight or to be healthy. He was walking because reliable men take care of themselves. I wasn't studying to pass the exam. I was studying because men whose families can rely on invest in themselves. I wasn't working 13 hours because I had to. I was working because the men present do what is necessary. Motivation changes, purpose doesn't. And that's when Nolan understood. He had spent 6 months building habits, but only now was he building an identity. Chapter 9. The Examination. A year after starting his journey, Nolan retook the college entrance exam. He had studied for 1 hour a day for 10 months, not every day. There were weeks when he only managed to study for 3 days, but over 10 months, he had accumulated more than 250 hours of study. And 250 hours is a lot when you really concentrate. He took the exam. He left without knowing if he had done well or badly. It's impossible to know. 3 weeks later, the result arrived. He opened the envelope with a trembling hand. It happened. He didn't get the highest grade in the world, but he got a high enough score to get a partial scholarship, 50% off the monthly fee. I would still need to pay the other half, but it was infinitely better than nothing. He showed it to his parents. His mother cried. His father hugged him and said, "I always knew you could do it." Nolan almost laughed. "Dad, you spent 18 years watching me do nothing. How did you always know?" The father smiled. "Because I saw when you started waking up early, when you started walking, and I thought, that's not the boy I know, that's a different man." Nolan felt something breaking in his chest, breaking with emotion. For the first time in his life, he was proud of himself. Chapter 10. The University and the New System. Nolan started college business administration. It wasn't the most glamorous course, but it was practical. It would give him the skills to get a decent job. And he applied everything he had learned. First week of class, he didn't try to be the perfect student. He didn't try to study 8 hours a day. He applied Kaizen. Study each subject for 30 minutes a day. That's all consistently. While the other students studied frantically before exams, Nolan studied for 30 minutes every day. And when the exam came, he was prepared. He continued working in the warehouse, but he reduced his hours. Now I worked 6 hours a day instead of 13. He continued walking in the morning, now 5 kilometers. He continued reading, now 20 pages a day. He started with 5. After 2 years, he naturally reached 20. And he understood something profound. You don't need discipline when you become an identity. He was no longer a guy trying to wake up early. He was a guy who wakes up early. He was no longer a guy trying to study. He was a guy who studies. Because when it's about identity, you don't need to convince yourself. You simply do it because it's who you are. Chapter 11. The College Group. In college, Nolan made friends with a few guys. One of them, Tyler, was just like Nolan 2 years earlier. Partying, drinking, procrastination. One day, Tyler saw Nolan waking up at 6 a.m. to go for a walk before class. "Dude, how do you do that? I can't even wake up for my 10 a.m. class." Nolan laughed. "Tyler, I couldn't do it 2 years ago either. So, what has changed? I stopped trying to be perfect. I started trying to be consistent like this." Nolan sat down next to him. "Do you really want to know? Because it's not a 2-minute answer. I want." And Nolan told his story. He talked about his sick father, about his brother's accident, about having to support his family, about failing miserably when he tried to change everything at once. He talked about Kaizen, about starting with 5 pages, about only walking as far as the mailbox. He talked about James Clear and atomic habits, about environmental design, triggers, and identity. He talked about Japanese philosophies, Shoshin, Gaman, Shuhari, Ichigo Ichi, Wabi-Shabi, and Ikigai. Tyler was silent for a while. Then he said, "Man, this is a lot. How do I even begin? Choose one thing, the smallest thing possible. Do it every day for 2 weeks. That's all." "Like what?" "I don't know." "Do you want to wake up earlier? Then wake up 30 minutes earlier tomorrow. Just 30 minutes. Don't try to wake up at 6 a.m. Wake up 30 minutes earlier than usual. And then what? Then you do this for 14 days. And on the 15th day, You add one more thing, but one thing at a time. Tyler tried it. He started by waking up 30 minutes earlier. It worked. After 2 weeks, he added 10 minutes of reading before bed. After 2 months, he was transformed. Not completely, but he was on his way. And Nolan realized something. When you change, you give permission for the people around you to change too. Chapter 12. 3 years later. Nolan is 22 years old now. He graduated from college. He got a job at a logistics company. He's not a CEO, he's not a millionaire, but he's earning enough to support his family comfortably. The father went back to work, not the hard work he did before. He got an administrative job, less money, but better health. His brother recovered from the accident. He's in high school now. And guess what? He wakes up early to go for a walk because he saw his brother doing it. His little sister is 3 years old. Nolan spends every weekend with her. He plays with her. He reads her stories. He's present. And what about habits? He still wakes up early. He still walks. He still reads. He still studies. Now he's learning about investing. But here's the crazy part. He doesn't think about it anymore. He doesn't have to force himself. He doesn't have to motivate himself. It's simply who he is. And when someone asks, "How do you manage to wake up so early? How are you so disciplined?" he replies, "It's not discipline, it's identity. And identity is built one microscopic action at a time." A Stanford University researcher studying neuroplasticity has discovered something fascinating. The human brain doesn't differentiate between who you are and what you do repeatedly. If you wake up early 100 days in a row, your brain recodes your identity to be someone who wakes up early. It's not willpower, it's neuroplasticity. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, explains, "The biggest mistake people make is focusing on goals instead of systems. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. If you want better results, forget the goals. Focus on the system." A University of London study on habit formation revealed, on average, it takes 66 days for a behavior to become automatic, but the variation is enormous. From 18 days for simple behaviors to 254 days for complex behaviors. What determines the speed is not the difficulty of the habit, but the consistency of its execution. Dr. B.J. Fogg, founder of the Behavior Design Lab at Stanford, developed the behavioral model. For any behavior to occur, 3 elements must be present simultaneously: motivation, ability, and trigger. If a behavior isn't happening, at least one of these elements is missing. Most people try to solve it with more motivation. The real solution is to make the behavior easier. But here's the part nobody tells you about building habits that never break. It's not about never failing. Nolan failed several times. He had weeks when he couldn't stick to any habits. He had months when everything fell apart. And do you know what made the difference? He always came back because the system he had built wasn't about perfection. It was about returns. Wabi-Shabi taught him to accept imperfection. Gaman taught him to endure difficult days. Shoshin taught him to never stop learning. Ichigo Ichi taught him to be present. Kaizen taught him that 1% is enough. And Ikigai taught him why he was doing all of this. And when you have the why, the how becomes easy. 3 years after starting, Nolan isn't perfect. He still has bad days. He still eats junk food occasionally. He still misses training days. He still procrastinates sometimes. But the difference is he doesn't hate himself for it. He just comes back the next day always. And this ability to return is what separates the people who transform their lives from the people who remain trapped in the eternal cycle of starting and giving up. So let me recap everything you learned in this video. First, Kaizen, continuous improvement of 1% per day. You don't need to change everything at once. You just need to be 1% better than yesterday. And 1% improvement per day results in 3,778% improvement in a year because of the cumulative effect. Second, James Clear and Atomic Habits. Habits aren't about willpower. They're about environmental design, triggers, and identity. Make good habits obvious, appealing, easy, and satisfying, and never miss 2 days in a row. Third, Shin Beginner's Mind. Maintain the humility and curiosity of someone who is always learning. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be willing to grow. Fourth, gammon, worthy perseverance. Clear builds the external system. Gammon is the internal system. On days when the environment isn't perfect, you need inner strength to keep going. Fifth, shuhari, the 3 stages of mastery. First, you follow the rules, then you break the rules. Finally, you transcend the rules, but you must follow before you adapt. Sixth, ichigo, this moment once in a lifetime. Each moment is unique. Each repetition is unique. When you are present, repetition becomes ritual. Seventh, wabi-sabi, beauty in imperfection. You will fail, and when you fail, don't hate yourself. Just come back, because beauty isn't in perfection, it's in the courage to keep going even when imperfect. Eighth, ikigai, your reason for living. Without purpose, nothing else matters. Your ikigai doesn't need to be grand. It can be taking care of your family. It can be being present. It can be being reliable. What matters is that it's genuine. And when you combine these 8 philosophies, you have a virtually foolproof system. Not because you'll never fail, but because even when you do fail, you have the tools to recover. Now, let me give you the same challenge that Marcus gave to Nolan and that Nolan gave to Tyler. Choose one habit, the smallest one possible, so small that you'll feel silly doing it. Want to wake up earlier? Wake up 20 minutes earlier, just 20 minutes. Want to start reading? Read 1 page, just 1 page. Want to exercise? Do 10 push-ups a day, just 10 push-ups. Want to meditate? Meditate for 1 minute, just 1 minute. Want to study? Study for 25 minutes, just 25 minutes. Does it seem ridiculous? Good, because if it seems ridiculous, you'll have no excuse not to do it. And do this for 14 days, just 14 days. Don't try to add anything else. Don't try to speed it up. Just do this one microscopic thing every single day for 14 days. And when you get to day 14, you will have proven something to yourself. Not that you can wake up early or read or work out, but that you can keep a promise to yourself. And this proof is the only thing you really need. Because when you know you can keep a small promise, you know you can keep any promise. Then you add another small change, and then another, and then another. And before you know it, you're a different person. Not because you tried to change, but because you built a new identity, one microscopic choice at a time. Nolan took 3 years to be completely transformed. Maybe it will only take you 1. Maybe it will take you 2. It doesn't matter because time will pass anyway. The question is, in 3 years, will you be in the same place you are today, doing the same things, being the same person? Or will you look in the mirror and see someone who has kept every promise they made to themselves? The choice is yours. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for your attention and your time. Seriously, this means you're truly committed to your transformation. If you want to learn more about each of the concepts I presented in this video, we have videos about each of these concepts here on the channel. Now, I want you to do something. If you're new to the channel, comment on what habit you're going to start tomorrow. If you've been following the channel for a while, comment here on what changes you've already made. Have you started reading more, waking up earlier, started weight training? Comment below. If this video helped you in any way, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Leave a like too, because that really helps the channel grow and reach more people who need this message. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to start. See you in the next video. And remember, be present, walk with honor, follow the path.